Okay, so we'll take an invocation to Maharishi Patanjali. Yogena chittasya padene vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravarambaninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासीधारणं सहस्रशिरसां श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम् Okay, so I'll just go on screen share. Okay, so last time we had so we just covered this. So what is yoga? Yoga is the dissolution of the fluctuations of consciousness. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. If this fluctuation of consciousness is not in a nirodha state, then what happens? Then vrittis keep moving here and there, and then you cannot abide in your true nature. So the Yoga Sutra before that said that tada drashtu swarupe vasthanam. Then the seer abides in his true nature. He knows that he is the iron ball. He is black, hard, cold. So vrittis will keep moving here and there. So this word vritti is important. We should know vritti means any fluctuation in consciousness. It's not about good or bad. Even a good fluctuation, a wisdom vritti is also a vritti. Now we discussed this last time, self-restraint and repression. And when I had brought this up, this is only from my own observation, my own practice and experiment. It's not coming from Osho or anybody. So I'm clarifying that. But because he brought this up saying that it's such a fine line between self-restraint and repression, and I gave my own example of how, so many years ago when I said that I will not have tea for 21 days. It was later I realized it was very repressive. And today, it's been many years. So today, when I reflect back, I realize that I was not in a self restraint mode. I was actually in a repressive mode, which is why when I stopped at 21 days, it came back with a vengeance. And it just increased my number of, just the intake of that. So let's look at it one by one. What is the difference? How do we know whether we are repressing and suppressing, or are we in self restraint? So self restraint is a very yoga way, it's a very Yoga Sutra way. So in self restraint, whenever you are doing or picking up, see, first of all, who needs to apply self restraint? Somebody who is in sattva, who is all calm, balanced, tranquil, he doesn't need to apply so much self restraint because he's already in a balanced state. There is not so much doership. Tamasic person is not doing anything, only there is no movement only happening. So what is there to apply to restrain? Nothing is happening. In my understanding, this applies mostly to people who are high in Rajogun. And most of us, the modern day man, is very high in Rajogun. We are activity oriented. We want to do something. If we don't do something, we become very restless. So, this is really for people like us. So, in our doership, sometimes we can become so thick on a certain doing aspect, and it can create tension. This is what creates stress, it creates anxiety, it creates anger, it creates uh, passion. We don't know how to be dispassionate and engage in activity. Passion does not mean drive here. Uh, Drive is good. You need that drive, but I'm speaking of the negative aspect of passion, which can go crazy. It's like, if you have seen Gordon Ramsay in his kitchen, now it's great. He's cooking, he's doing, but you see him screaming, shouting, calling names, swearing. Why is all that needed? Can you also work in a way which is sattvic? It's a very rajasic way of working. Do you notice that? So when, say, let's say something like anger. Okay, now a raja gun person may be very prone to anger. So if he represses, this person has just heard something in a book, in a scripture, and says, I will not be angry. No matter what, I'm not going to be angry for 21 days. Let's not even say rest of my life. Try it. Something makes you angry, something triggers you. You are sitting there, I'm not going to be angry, I'm not going to be angry. And you're pushing it, suppressing it, smiling. Inside, you're burning. Okay. It's driving you crazy. You're not even looking at that. Your mind is focused on बस करो इसको push करो नीचे push करो let's bury it down. This is how the mind is working in repression. This is how the mind works. It says push it down, don't let it come out, don't let it come to the surface. I'm not going to let it happen. It is the power of force, more rajoguna, which is active to in repression. Rajoguna becomes even more active to handle that particular aspect, and uh, purely based on force and will. Will is great, but it's purely based on that. Sattva element is not existing in repression. What happens in self restraint? Self restraint says that next time I feel that I'm going to watch my anger. I want to become a person who doesn't get angry easily or doesn't get angry at all. This is how I want to move. This is how I want to move in my life. How will I do this? No, I will not repress. I will not suppress. अगर मुझे गुस्सा आया, I will just step back. So, one practice for self restraint begins that whatever I have to say when I'm feeling angry, I'm going to take 5 deep breaths first. I will take 5 deep breaths, and after that, I will choose and see what happens. Now, this is self restraint. There is a little bit of sattvic element. There is doership, there is rajogun, but it is dominated by a certain wisdom of sattva, where a practice is being engaged and there is observation and awareness. When awareness happens, sattva rises. So in self restraint, sattva will dominate your rajas. In repression, only the rajas dominates. In self restraint, sattva will dominate. So I will say, I will take 5 deep breaths, I will step back and look at myself. Now, when you do those 5 deep breaths, mind, the nature of mind is such, it can only be on, it can focus properly only on one thing. So if it is focused on anger, all energy of the mind gets directed in anger. But now you're telling the mind, I want you to focus for 5 breaths deeply. Now, those 5 deep breaths, the mind is focusing deeply on the breathing, okay, on your ujjayi. Now, just those 5 breaths will shift the mind. Do you
Mm.
notice it can happen? The moment it shifts the mind, after that, you make a choice. You can still continue to be angry, but what would have happened before the 5 breaths and after the 5 breaths, there will be a difference. You can choose that this situation deserves anger. I need to speak in a stern way to somebody, otherwise, this was not going to work. There are people like that. You speak to them sweetly, nothing will happen. So, like Sadhguru says, no, within myself, nothing happens, but sometimes people need it, a harsh look or a glare. Otherwise, it'll not move them into action. Even, I don't know, among my children, like with my own children, I see, my son can be just a little thing and, things fall. With my daughter, I have to push a little bit more. Otherwise, she just takes me for granted. So even though I don't have to like, it's like a little bit of glare or, mom's like, she really means it. She has to see me in a certain state to get acting. So it happens like that. So depends upon. So you make a conscious choice in self restraint. So therefore, the action that you choose when you follow the path of self restraint is based on clarity, whereas repression is purely ego based, is will based, and says only on self confidence. I was functioning like that. Those years back when I took up that 21-day no tea, it was pure. Are, of course I can do it. My mind is so strong. It was a path of ego. Of course, you need ego because ego is what gives you the willpower, it is what drives you to do things. If you don't have this ability to say, I can do it, I will do it, how will you do anything? But it was purely that. And I don't think I applied any self restraint. It's the sattva was not very strong in me in those days. So the other thing which happens in the practice of self restraint is you will start observing. You will start observing your interiority in the pause that you take. This is something which I wasn't doing, and even in anger, y- you remember that practice which we take did. You take a lime, you drop the lime juice in your mouth, and you see the sensations rising in the body, you see the salivation happening. Nothing is there actually, but all of this chemistry is happening in the body. So can you step back and just simply observe the chemistry in the body, and can you observe the sensations? So that is self-restraint. Okay. So, self restraint is a combination of willpower and awareness. It is going to create more inner peace inside you. When you walk this path, repression is just that you are burying everything inside you. It is there, it's just and keep burying it. Do it over a few years. It's just a matter of a trigger, a condition, and then, willpower is like this. It will keep clenching the fist so much, so much. There will come a time where you cannot hold any longer, it will loosen. You cannot. How long by your own energy will you hold like this? You will get tired. It will just erupt then. Yeah, so burying is never an answer. In yoga, we never say bury it. Don't look at it. We are always about look at everything. Don't miss anything. Look at your worst also. See it. Don't judge yourself. You are a composite of many samskaras coming from many lifetimes. Sometimes you may see such ugly emotion or such ugly thoughts rising in you that it will leave you shocked and surprised. Oh, I am thinking like this. The moment that happens, we want to shut it down. Oh, no, this is not the kind of person I am. I'm not going to think like this. Yes, you can choose to do that. That's a sensible way. But at the same time, just observe, okay, it's rising. Fine. I've seen it. I don't have to act on every thought that comes to me. I've seen it's just like wind blowing. I've seen a wave created. I will do what is sensible and what is right. That is fine. But don't bury it and don't shush it. No, just look at it and let it pass. This is the path of yoga. We will go into this later in more depth as we get into Swadhyaya and the practice sadhana pada. So energy gets redirected in self restraint. In the pause that you make, the energy which is flowing towards anger, there is a slight movement. You will pick up that energy and you will direct it in a new direction. This is how you transform yourself and you create a new you. It is like creating a blueprint for a new life for yourself. This is self restraint. Repression will not do that. Repression will not help you create a transformational blueprint on which a new you can be invented. So it will just create toxicity in you. Also, notice self restraint is a very yes oriented path, and repression is a very no oriented path. Their focus in repression is on a negative aspect of it's like I'm not going to do this. I will not, it's like all this will not happen. That's it. So there is tension that is going on with it. Self restraint is the path of yes. It is saying I want to become a certain kind of person. And I realize that this is not an overnight process. It's not going to happen immediately. This is the direction I want to move in. So there's a very conscious, there it comes from a place of centeredness. It is towards, yes, I want to do something nice. I really want to be nice. It's like, it's not saying that I will not get angry. It is not about me. It is I want to be kind. I want to be sweet to this person. I don't want to say anything bad to this person. So it is not about me not doing something. It is about me wanting to do something nicer. Do you see? It's very subtle. But how is the mind oriented towards an external object, towards a person shifts? Do you see that? And this is why it's a very yes path. And this yes path of being open, of looking at something looking at beauty and following that rather than saying no ugliness, no ugliness. There is a difference. There is a switch. The mind switches. So the focus is different in self-restraint and repression. Does that make sense? That will help you also in your own practice to know whether I'm repressing, suppressing, or am I applying self-restraint. Okay. So I just wanted to address that. Let's move on. Ratna, you're there. You want to put on your camera? Okay. All right. So let's look at the fifth sutra.
Yes, Swati, sorry,
Huh.
I am. I will just come in just in a few minutes.
Sure, no problem. So the
But
fifth
the
sutra.
session is going so beautifully. I'm so glad I'm here. I had a late night, but something woke me up in the morning saying, I really want to do this.
Very nice, very nice. I don't know. Let me see. You guys want me to keep it 7:30 or something? Nobody's. If you find it hard, or let me know. Okay, just put
7:30
it.
is good.
7:30 is good. Just put it on the group chat. Okay, just put. I think Vinay wanted it early, but he's not here today. Let me check with him also. If 7:30 works, I can do that. All right. So the fifth sutra says, so these vrittis happen. Now, vrittis are of five kinds. Vrittaya panchataya klishta klishta. We spoke of this last time. They can be klishta. These vrittis can create problem in us. But vrittis can also be good, like this thought: I want to be nice to you. I want to be kind to you. It's a good vritti. I want to study. Like Ratna said, I wanted to get up in the morning. I wanted to be part of this. It's a good vritti. It's a sattvic vritti. It's an aklishta vritti, but it is also a vritti. Wisdom vritti is also a vritti. Just remember this, okay? Vritti does not mean nirodha. As long as vritti is there, nirodha is not happening. Just remember, nirodha means vrittis have dissolved. Okay. So moving on, klishta aklishta. So for you to understand whether this is a problematic way or a non-problematic way, you need viveka. You need the power of discrimination. Viveka means the power of discrimination, the power of discerning what is correct, what is not correct, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate. Just like we created a distinction between self-restraint and repression, which is based on viveka. But that viveka also, I think I came into it through years, through practice. When I did that first thing, which was like, in those days I was not initiated into any meditation practice. Also, when I took it up, it was my first visit to the ashram, and just from a place of, oh, I want to do something, purely rajasic intention, I said, okay, let's do this. They talk like this or whatever. But I don't think I had all this understanding. And now when I reflect back, I realize why it may have gone wrong, or it had been counterproductive to me, because nowadays I've become like more, I don't put blanket uh, no do's and don'ts on me. It's nothing is like a one blanket. It is like, just move consciously, just make intelligent choices moment to moment, and that makes more sense. It works better. So one way is to raise a klishta vritti. So throughout in the path of yoga, even if you read if you study the Bhagavad Gita, one of the things being suggested is that first rise into sattva, keep rising into sattva. See, this is important. It's very important to rise into sattva. It helps. You can come into a certain equilibrium of that triangle and then go through, come into transcendence itself. But don't get stuck with it. Being good, this is also something which I would just leave it with you. It's not just about being good. I spoke of Valmiki's story last time. You can come into transcendence, so just be aware of that fact. It doesn't mean you start becoming bad and you start getting into crime. That's not. But uh, but as yoga practitioners, as people who are studying wisdom texts, we must understand that don't think that it is just about being good and doing good is what is going to take you into transcendence. Valmiki's story, a dacoit came into it. All this is possible. Okay. It is all about one pointed focus. It is about ananyaschinta, which has been spoken of in the Gita, where your mind is absorbed in one thing so deeply, so totally, that it will break boundaries. It's like Sadhguru says, anger, can you be angry for 24 hours? If you can stay in the same frequency of anger for 24 hours, you will transcend. The point is, we cannot stay in any particular thing continuously. Even if we are angry, just watch. After a few hours, we can't sustain that anger. It shifts. We don't have that energy or capacity. So the point is, we will have to go through our life. May as well, if we keep our sattva high, the experience is pleasant for us. That is why all these wisdom texts always are guiding us to follow the path of sattva. Otherwise, your external situations will become so difficult to handle. It's not that it is not possible through it. You can, it has been, there are enough examples for us to see that. Even with a rajasic or tamasic, it is possible. It is wrong to say that you cannot come into it. At least this has been my deeper understanding as I studied the Bhagavad Gita. So, but yes, for Yoga Sutras, we are looking at build on your sattva. It will keep your outside environment non-problematic if you are sattva. See, if you're going to go keep fighting with everybody and this is going to be my path, how will you do dhyan? This is the path of dhyan. So Yoga Sutra is telling us, keep your outside environment comfortable, keep it easier so that people will not bother you. Otherwise, your family is disturbing you, your relatives are disturbing you, everybody is bothering you, your boss is bothering you. So to come into that, you just keep watching how to raise my sattva. I must become pleasant, vitality, move the path of intelligence, sweetness, a certain sense of balance, tranquility, whatever creates more of this in me, Choose that. Okay, this is the path of Yoga Sutras. It is in Yoga Sutras. This is very important that you should keep working on your sattva as a practice, as your sadhana. Now, and that is what yamas are also all about, but it has to be done and very, very consciously. Now, mind creates vritti, correct? What is creating all this vritti? It is because we have a mind, vrittis are happening. Okay, it is like mind. You simply look at mind is like a pond. You just, if you have to visualize mind, no, just see it like a lake or a pond. That from there, then we have buddhi, ahamkar, manas. Manas is the place of feelings, emotions, thoughts. They cannot be stable. That is its nature. Can you It cannot happen, no? A lake or a pond, the surface is never the same. One thing you drop, little bit of air. We also are made of panchabhuta. We also have that air element in us. One thought from somewhere, one input from here, if not from outside, from inside only we start generating thoughts. Nobody says anything, but from inside there are things getting generated, and there is a ripple in the consciousness. So mind becomes a source of bondage. It will keep me stuck to something or the other. But mind can also become a source of freedom. If you start watching the mind, slowly you can dissolve all these ripples in the consciousness. So, uh, what happens is a mad mind, a mind that is totally chaotic and disorganized. It means you are absent. When I say you are absent, not when I say you're absent, when Osho says you are absent, it basically means your awareness does not exist. Awareness does not exist. And you're simply working on autopilot. Whatever vritti samskaras exist, they're just playing up conditioned patterns. You're in a state of prejudice, and that is what can create hell or heaven for us. We can be in a state of hell, we can be in a state of heaven. Is it right to say that mind will bring you bliss? We speak of bliss. You followed Sadhguru. He says, Shambhavi Mahamudra, you do. It is your path to bliss. Tell me, what is your thought? Do you think that mind can take you to bliss? Yeah? No, Shaila? No. Yeah. Why do you say no, Shaila?
At least my mind wouldn't. I mean,
Okay, that's a good one.
I feel too many, as you said, vrittis, too much movement, too much fluctuation.
Does your mind create misery in you?
Yes, too much.
Can your mind create non-misery in you?
Yes,
It can create non-misery, isn't it?
yes.
Yes. So mind has the capacity to create misery, but mind also has the capacity to create non-misery. Self-restraint is the path of the mind where I'm using my mind, I'm using my buddhi to move in a certain, so I can create non-misery. It is true. Through the mind, you can come into non-misery, but non-misery does not mean bliss. Non-misery simply means you can come up to a gate and then the mind has to dissolve. If the mind dissolves, then that which is your true nature, that which is your nature, bliss, they say, is the nature of a human being. Just like the iron ball, hi Vinay, is the nature, and it will start flowing through. Okay, so rightly used, mind can come to a point where it becomes no mind. If you keep using the mind rightly, you can reach a point where it will become no mind, all vrittis dissolved, and your true nature, that which is called bliss. You've heard, all of you are spiritual seekers, you've heard of Sat Chit Anand. They say Sat Chit Anand, this is your true nature. How to discover it? Just when you come to a no mind state, it will start flowing. Okay, so going on. Pramana Viparyaya Vikalpa Nidra Smritaya. From here on, Maharishi Patanjali uh, gives details on these vrittis. So, Vinay, you can catch up on the first 15 minutes, first 30 minutes later on in the recording. Okay.
I apologize for that. I thought we were 7:30 start time, right?
No, 7 a.m. Last time also you joined at 7. Shall we move it to 7:30? I think it's easier for
I
everybody.
apologize. My mistake. I was up. I just forgot to that was 7. I'm sorry.
Okay, fine. All right. I may move it to 7:30 because I think some of these people from New Jersey, it's too cold and too early. Huh? Okay, we'll see that.
Yeah, 7:30 is better for me as well.
Okay, I will talk to Vinay. All right. So now Maharishi Patanjali says that vrittis are of five kinds. Your mind. So he's telling you if you use your mind rightly, you can come to know mind. So you must understand what are these fluctuations that are happening in the mind. What kind of waves? Have you just sat and looked at a lake? There are different kind of waves. No, sometimes it just moves in a certain direction. Sometimes it's if you've seen, there are different kinds of ripples that are getting formed. What are these different kind of ripples? Maharishi Patanjali says there are only five kind of vrittis. Your mind can only move in these five directions. First is praman. It has a need to know. I want to know, and I want to know what is right, isn't it? All of us want to know what is the right thing. That is, it's one of the reasons why we are studying the Yoga Sutras, right? Praman. It can, and it needs evidence for it. Show it to me that it is right. How can you tell me that it is right? Okay. Then the second one is viparyaya. Viparyaya means wrong knowledge. Mind can also be in wrong knowledge. It can be mistaken. It can be mistaken and it can think that it is right, but it is actually mistaken. This is the second way your mind operates. The third way the mind operates is it can be on imagination. It can be just on some fancy ideas, uh, dreams, something it's conjuring up just based on words. It can be in sleep. Mind can simply go on sleep. Remember, and we'll discuss sleep. Why is sleep called a vritti? But you must think about it. Why is sleep called a vritti? Because there's no movement there. Then smritaya. Smritaya is memory. Mind can be on memory. So many of us are just chewing the past, whatever happened. So these are the five vrittis of the mind. First vritti, we'll take it up. And I will go very slowly into this. I will start from the most shallow and superficial layer and keep diving deeper and deeper into it. So when I do the introductory talk on Yoga Sutras, I just stay with the superficial first level thing and just give that to people. At least live your worldly life better. You can you can, get understanding from this. So pratyaksh anumanagama pramanani, right perception arises from direct observation, inference, and testimony from scriptures or wisdom texts. So the mind wants to know whether I'm right or not. The mind wants to be in right knowledge. How do you know something? How can you know anything? You know something because I have seen it directly with my eyes. Pratyaksh. It's in front of me. Yeah. You do, somebody comes and asks me, "Is Usha in your class?" I say, "Yes, I know she's. I know she's in my class. I know she is. She's at home. She's in a Yoga Sutra session. How do I know? I see her. I know it. There's no need for me to. It's right there in front of me. This is called pratyaksh. Anumana. We can also infer, right? We can infer something if we don't know directly. For example, if I give this example, I walk into a room and I see paper plates, I see streamers strewn all over, I see uh, jugs of juices, maybe some party caps. I can infer that there must have been a party here, there must have been people here who were um, who were having a celebration. This is inference. Through this also I can know, my mind can know something that is right. And the third is testimony. So, for example, I give this example. You move to a new country, and now you have to learn driving. So, uh, when I moved from India to US, when I moved from Malaysia to US, the whole driving system is different. New rules, where to go. Suppose I do not heed authority, okay, and I say I'm going to live by, I'm going to drive the way I want. I will hurt myself also and I will hurt others also. Then I don't really know anything. So then we look to the authority. So you go through your driving test, the DMV. So you look to authority for right knowledge. Okay, how should I drive here? I should drive in this lane. I should follow this rule. And then you will be in the right knowing. You will know correctly. So these are the three ways in our normal materialistic worldly life we can apply this. Very beautiful. See, in your normal worldly life, uh, if you have to know whether you are making a right decision or a good choice, I'm just speaking on worldly life. I'm not even talking spirituality. We'll come into it deeper. It's a very nice way to see whether your decision brings a coalescence of all these three aspects. For example, so even a simple thing like, you know, uh, you're choosing where your child should go to for his study, college admission. So you do pratyaksh. First, you apply pratyaksh. You see it. You see it in the news. You know this is a good place. Uh, uh, the results have been nice, so you choose, and it is uh, it is supporting your own ambitions. It is supporting the path that you have chosen for yourself. So if you want to be in finance, you know that this is a good college and these are the places that I should. So this is pratyaksh, direct perception. It's there, out there, evidence. There are results which are being showed. Anumana. So you see the students who have passed out from this college, how they were placed, how are they earning. You can draw an inference. So many people got passed out from this university, they are placed here, this is the kind of earning. You can infer that this must be a good place for you to go and study. And agama, if you still do not get any information through pratyaksh and anumana, suppose these two sources of right knowledge are not available to you, you go to agama, you go to professors, you go to people in the university, you speak to other parents whose children were in that place and who have passed out from there, and you collect source of right knowledge from people who know, who have known. Correct? If all these three things coalesce, these are sources of knowledge, and if all these three things coalesce, you can be absolutely sure that you're making a good decision. It becomes helpful. Sometimes I found it nice, to play around and experiment with it and see whether I'm right. Is my source of knowledge, is everything coalescing? It's a way to work on it. This is a very rudimentary and a very shallow and superficial application of Maharishi Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Sometimes there are certain commentaries that I read and they will just stop at it. Please remember, Yoga Sutras is a moksha shastra. It's a shastra on liberation. Yes, if you want, you can reduce everything. The Bhagavad Gita can be reduced to uh, how I will function in my corporate life. Nothing wrong in it at all. Nothing wrong in it. But it is a limited application. It's a very, very, I'll tell you something, I'm sorry digressing, but how do we limit ourselves? How do we limit ourselves? I don't know if you've done the new in engineering program. There's a very nice example in that. So one day in a town, a man wakes up in the morning, okay, and he sees this town. It's an old village, okay. Nobody has ever seen an airplane in that town ever. So he wakes up in the morning and he sees that an airplane is parked on the road, okay, with huge wings. Now he doesn't know what it is, okay. He has no knowledge. He has no memory of an airplane. It doesn't sit in his mind. So he cannot make out what is it. I don't know. So he walks inside. He sees there are many seats. There's a wheel there. There are some buttons there. I can operate. I can make it move. There are wheels down also. So he says, oh, this must be a bus because this is all he knows. He doesn't know what an airplane is. So he takes an axe and he chops off the wings. Okay. And he uses that airplane like a bus. Someone who knows what that airplane is, just imagine what will happen to him. This is how we are using yoga today. We have taken yoga and we have reduced it to its poorest, lowest denominator. And this is how we are practicing. We have made it about exercise karenge, body banayenge. This is what we are doing, even with that airplane. We will just make a bus out of it. See, I can move around faster. Arey, but you never know what you could do. You could fly with it. This is what yoga is. You can fly with it, but we have reduced it so badly. Let's sanitize yoga. Let's not bring these names and Sanskrit into it. If you go to yoga studios today, and I was speaking to some here, they told me, you can teach those breathing exercise, but you don't mention Kapalabhati, you don't teach, you just talk about the anatomy. They actually told me. So I asked them, you're asking me to fit into a certain mold and share my yoga. For me, it doesn't work. I mean, it's like, in yoga therapy we do that because it's level 1, you're just bringing people there, but people who are getting into it, why deny them this possibility? How do you know that somebody doesn't have the seeds for it? Maybe life will change for him, even if you drop a few things, even if you share something. So this is how we are working, limited way of working, and this is why limited way of functioning is a waste of life. That's why they say you have come into this life, you're not going to live forever. You may have another 50, 60 years of your life. What are you going to do with it? You will spend all your time and all your life in this materialistic and worldly things, or are you going to explore your true nature and become that which is unlimited, that which is your true possibility. You will burst into divinity. That is the dharma of every human being. The dharma of a tree, sorry, I'm digressing again, okay, but a dharma of a tree, what is it? Its dharma is to create leaves, provide shade, do photosynthesis. That's the dharma of the tree. What is the dharma of the human being? Yes, you may be a husband, wife, parent, all employee. That dharma is one dharma. But the highest dharma, which we say as param dharma for a human being, is to burst into divinity, is to become enlightened. That is your dharma. Just like the dharma of the sun is to shine, the param dharma of any human being is to come into that state of enlightenment. This is why you were born as a human being. This is why you have this life. You have been given this chance. If you are listening to the enlightened ones, they are repeating this, shouting this again and again, whether it's a Jesus, whether it's a Buddha, whether it's a Sadguru, whether it's Osho, all of them are Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. They're all pointing you in this direction. They have become enlightened. They have seen this and they're telling you, you know, this is why you exist. You don't exist just to do this mundane stuff all the time. All right. Too much digression. Pratyaksh anuman agamaha. Okay. So this is how we know something. Now, when we know like this, when I'm making decisions like this, how am I working? What am I using to come into this understanding? I'm using my sense perceptions, ears, eyes, correct? I'm listening, I'm reading, I'm gathering information. So I'm working with my sense perceptions, my gyan indriyas, correct? If you remember in the model of the 25 tattvas, we have 5 gyanendriyas, 5 senses. Through these senses, I gather this information, my buddhi processes it, and I come to a certain decision. Fair enough. In the materialistic world, this will work very well. Okay. But even in that, there could be a limitation. So I will say something and I will start contradicting and show you an another view to it, a polar view to it. Okay. So you remember in the ancient times, it was believed that the earth was flat. It was believed earth is flat. Galileo was the first one who said, no, earth is round. But he was imprisoned for having said this. He said he was misinforming people. He was creating all kinds of chaos in the minds of people. Why? He said, and what were people's argument against this? What was the church's argument against this? What was the society's argument? They said, Pratyaksh. You see, how can you say the earth is round? You just see it with your eyes. Does it look round to you? Now, in your limited capacity, you will never see the roundness of the earth, right? You're standing, how far can you see? Anuman, inference. If you are saying that the earth is round, let me keep walking on the earth, I should fall off, no? Why don't I fall off? So you're wrong. What you're saying is wrong. Third, agama. In those times, in Galileo's time, the church was the authority, okay? Whatever the church said, that passed. And the authorities in the church claimed the earth is flat and it had to be so. So he was going against authority. And because of all this, he was put in house imprisonment. Look at this. The day man learned to fly, you were here, your perception was here, and you were looking at something from here. The day you raised, the day you learned to fly, you saw everything that Galileo said was right. And it was all pratyaksh. The earth was round. You just have to raise. So to know something truly in its absolute reality, not by sense perception. If you work on this by sense perception, you will not know. Even in the materialistic world, beyond a point, senses will not help you. Even the earth, which is part of our world, okay, science, you will not know if you do not transcend your limitations in some way. That is why every day try to transcend a limitation a little bit and a little bit. That's why most of us go to yoga class also for this, no? Because when we do self practice, I stay in my comfort zone. If I'm in the class, my teacher will send me 5 more breaths, 6 more breaths. It doesn't mean you're not killing yourself, but you are very in great awareness, you're slightly expanding the boundaries of your existence. This is important. The path of yoga is expand to such a degree that you obliterate the boundaries of your existence and your true nature. Simply, it's an effulgent outpouring. So even in this, your perception is limited because you don't have that height, right? See, there is another example I will tell you, which Sadhguru gives to understand. This is in some way, this relates perfectly well to raising of our consciousness. Now you're stuck in a traffic jam. Okay, there's so many cars around. You are inside the car, you are getting late, and now you are, swearing, you are cursing, you are in so much anger and anxiety. Why am I stuck here? I should have been there in 5 minutes. Now 30 minutes, I'm just stuck. I cannot even move. Suppose in that same place you were in a helicopter on the higher at a height, right? Now the traffic is still there. The traffic is there all around you, but it does not disturb you because you are not stuck in that jam. You are a little bit above. So the moment we raise ourselves a little bit above, which is transcending your limitation or your boundary in a certain way, it gives us a better perspective. The better our perception, the less bondage we feel. The poorer your perception, the more bondage, anxiety, and stress you feel. This is the crux of Yoga Sutras. It is all about your perception. It is all about how you see things. If you see poorly, you will live a miserable life. If you see wide and big, which will happen only by rising up, by transcending your limitations, you will be a free being. You will be a calm being. You will not only come into sattva, you will come into transcendence. You will not only come into a place of no misery, you will come into a place of bliss. Okay. Now, beyond senses, knowing what is right. So this is how we know with senses. You can do your external worldly life in a certain way, but understand that even those senses, it seems like with my senses I will know everything. Understand they are limited. We showed that with the earth example. Even senses are limited to grasp the nature of certain things because they are not in your perception. Beyond the senses also there is a way of knowing. Now let's look at this. So you're in a dark room, okay, and I'm also in that room with you, okay, and but you don't know who is there. 5 people are there, 10 people are there. If you need to see me or you need to see somebody else, you need a light to be switched on and you need to see me. No, if I ask you, if you were asked, is there anybody in this room, there could be 100 people there, but you don't know, you can't see, it's pitch dark, so you don't know. You need a light to see that. But if you are in a dark room and I ask you, are you there? You know you are there, isn't it? There is no outside light. You don't know this because you open your eyes and you see yourself, isn't it? You just know that you are there. How do you know? How do you know? So when we are saying, if you say that pratyaksh means I can only see with my eyes and therefore I will know, that is a very poor and limited way of looking at life. That is not how you know. You will know those things in the external dimension. That is okay. In the worldly life, samsara. Samsara is all this. Okay. Samsara you will know by your eyes. But yourself, you don't know by your eyes. You know it by something else. What is that thing? How do I know that I am there? I know. It is self-evidently true. Isn't it? It is you. Do I have to prove to you that I'm there? No, I don't have to prove to you. I know I'm there. You can say whatever the hell you want. I know I'm there. Will you believe if somebody says that you're not there, you're lying? Say correct. You will think he's mad. This is what enlightened people feel. We are mad. That's why Sadhguru, when if you listen to him in Isha Kriya introduction, he says, no, WWA, Worldwide Asylum. Because you are thinking that which is not. But how to explain? You have to do till your perception sharpens, you will not see what the enlightened being sees. He can keep saying, it will make no difference to you. Now, so if we want to see ourselves, light is not needed. External senses are not needed. So does the mind have the capacity for right knowing without using physical senses? Yes, on the spiritual path, this is what is needed. You don't need your gyan endriyas to see yourself. Okay. That's why we're saying shut your eyes and sit if you want to see yourself. If you want to truly know the nature, if you want to expand your perception, if you want to transcend your limitations, shut your damn eyes and sit down quietly without moving for some time every day, minimum 12 minutes. And then something will start happening. So, So it's like this. Mind has a capacity for right knowledge. It is possible for the mind to know correctly. And there is a switch on button inside our mind. Just to put it in a way that we can understand, this is called pramana. Okay. How do we know something? Pramana. This is the right center. Praman means the right center, self-evidently true. I know. You don't have to show me. So if you put this button on, you become established in right knowledge, and only that which is right gets revealed to you. It's a self-revelation inside you. Without this praman, this right center working within you, whatever you know will be wrong. If the right center does not work, the mind has two centers. It has a right center, it has a wrong center. Okay. If the right center is functioning within you, you will, whatever you know will be right. If the wrong center is functioning within you, it will be wrong. This is not based simply on external sense perceptions. Now, it's like this. Mind has the capacity for right knowledge. It's like this, if you press this praman button, it's like you take a torch and you simply move in a certain direction. For example, I'm in a dark room. Okay. Now I know that I exist, but suppose I am asked, does a chair exist? Or is Swati also in that room with you? Now, if I'm just giving an example, okay, don't stretch it too far. If the right knowledge button, okay, if the praman button is on inside me, I simply turn my mind, which is like a torch, and apply it in that direction. Swati is revealed to me in that dark room also. This is what happens to a man like Buddha. You know, people say that Buddha, we come in front of you, and even before we have asked a question, you seem to know what is happening and you seem to address us. How does this happen? He says, no, it is not that I know your question by some gathering information or data. I simply turn the right center of knowledge and I look, and oh, you cannot deceive a Buddha. Whatever is happening, whatever is your fluctuation, will be known to him. He may not know like the words of your question, but he will know what are you about. See, once Sadhguru was also asked something like this, and he said that I'm not answering your question in terms of information or words. I am answering you because he can see the vritti in you. Where is this coming from? So it is not about what and how the question is composed. It is where is this coming from? The moment that is addressed, things get answered automatically. Where is this coming from? So this is what an enlightened person is, where he simply will turn, his torch is shining that light and it is revealed to him. This is what happens. So mystics are like that. So what you know is not the question. From where you know it is the question. That is how a Buddha or an enlightened being functions. Okay. And what is the way to activate the center in us? We look at that. Osho has explained it very nice. He says, okay, now can you think about something you don't know? If I tell you, somebody asks you a question, you have no clue about it. Okay, somebody asks, suppose I have never studied science in my life. Okay, I don't think I can speak much on it in any case. Somebody says specific gravity. Tell me something about it. How do I mean, and you say, Are, you have a mind, go think about it. And you should know something. How can I simply think about it and know? I don't know. Somebody sees an airplane in a town. He has never seen an airplane in his life. Go think about it. You should know what it is. Now he thinks. This man actually thinks, Array, it has seats to sit. It has wheels. It must be a bus. He's done some patchwork based on his memory. And he has said, this is what it is. Do you see? Do you see what happens when we work just with memory, with the data stored in our mind? So something which you don't know anything about, don't think you can think about it. What is enlightenment? People want to know what is enlightenment. You know your spirit. So we all study all these texts, but how we interpret a text is not. If I was to study Yoga Sutra without my teachers who have some practice, some understanding, actually Osho, see, there is a difference between even teachers who are teaching texts and someone who has come into a realized state and speaking about that. It's very different. So I have listened to teachers who are talking on this, whose sharing is based simply on study of other texts, similar to what I'm doing here. Okay. They are very good, great presentation. I get a lot of information, gather data from them. Yes, it solves some questions also in my mind, no doubt about that. I'm not in any way denigrating it or saying that that is bad. No, we all have to start somewhere and it's helpful, but it's limited because it also leaves many things unanswered since that person himself is not in an enlightened state. He has not come into self realization and he's talking. I'll tell you something. My teacher, Manoj, okay, Manoj used to say that to understand Maharishi Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, only a person who is in the same level of consciousness as Maharishi Patanjali can explain what he is saying. Only that person. So all the commentators today, the good commentaries, they base their commentaries based on Maharishi Vyasa's commentary. Manoj's commentary, the first chapter that he's written on Maharishi's making Patanjali palatable, is based on Vyasa's commentary because Vyasa was in the same state as Maharishi Patanjali. Now, our, the way we are, all dead gurus are fine. Oh, there's a dead guru, we can worship them. Somebody who's alive creates confusion in our mind. Oh, is he really like this? Because in our world, we have seen all kinds of god men, con men, and we are confused. We feel we will be misled. So it takes a certain, I will tell you something which is, mm, it depends upon your samskaras. It depends on what are the seeds you have gathered from past lifetimes. Sometimes you will just find a connection and you will know it to be right. Nobody has to prove it to you. Nobody has to tell you that this is a guru worth following or, this is, you simply see light. Like when I sat with Osho, how Yoga Sutras also, I'll just share my own example. So Yoga Sutra started to me when Ashtanga Vinyasa started to me like 13 years ago in my life. When I just heard that my teacher who was teaching Ashtanga Vinyasa, he said, I heard from my teacher that he would recommend people to learn to study Yoga Sutras. And I was so enamored by my teacher. I was like, whatever he knows, I want to know. Mujhe nahi pata. I didn't know anything about Patanjali. I didn't know Yoga Sutra, nothing. I said, whatever he knows, I want to know. This was just a longing. No teacher, no book. So stupid, didn't even know that books existed on this thing that I could gather and learn. Three of us, Sushma, I, and a friend of mine, we just created a friends group and we said, okay, let's study together. What is there? Okay, stupid. As if you can study Yoga Sutras like this. But sincerity was there. There was a longing and there was sincerity. Just two things. We sat on the web, Swami J, this site. That day, you see this book, this Yoga Sutra bound book. I took a printout of this. I bound it. I got it bound. This was my text. Nothing I knew. One word in that I couldn't understand. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What the hell does that mean? Nothing. Okay. We put this together. We said, okay, you prepare first 3 sutras. I will prepare next 3 sutras and we will discuss and we will learn Yoga Sutras. We would meet for our first session together. 3 sessions we did like this. I think all stupid. Just, it's like little babies trying to play gar gar, something like that. And in 3 weeks, in the center where I was studying, I had this teacher, James. We heard he was coming to our center for a kirtan. So we went and attended that kirtan. We were all sitting in a circle. My friend said, let's go, yeah. It was like, okay, 30 of us sitting in a circle. James was there. James, amazing. Very nice guy. I've done chapter 2 and 1. He's the one who introduced Yoga Sutras to me. He took me through the first chapter like a story. And it was like my first revelation of what yoga really means. 30 of us sitting, he asked each one of us to say our name, okay? And Filipinos there, okay? At the end of that, he repeated everybody's name, yeah? Everybody's name, and he said, Namaste. I don't know. That guy is different. Huh? He was doing, that time he was studying his MA in Sanskrit in Mysore, and he was visiting Philippines. So later, my friend said, let's go ask him if he'll teach us Yoga Sutras. Like, why will he teach us? Yeah, he's come for Kirtan. We went to him and we asked him, we want to study. Will you teach us? And he was delighted. He said, I just held a session. If you guys are free, you come. And that is when, we just went like that. So if your longing exists, your teacher will appear. It's like that. The root finds its way to the water. It will find it. It will happen. And we were there. First chapter happened, then he introduced us to the second chapter, introduced us to Ashtanga. What does Ashtanga Yoga? That was, and once he laid that foundation for me, then I could build up. Then if I studied, everything started making sense. And then I studied with him during COVID. I did a Zoom session, diving deep into chapter 2. And I was in Hong Kong walking on the street. Okay. I had no idea of Osho speaking on Yoga Sutra. The only thing I had heard of Osho, my father told me. His guru, Jagat Guru Kripaluji, who comes from such an orthodox tradition, he told him that if you study the Gita, you don't miss your commentary by Osho on the Bhagavad Gita. It is the best. And Jagat Guru Kripaluji Maharaj, he's the founder of this, the Prem Mandir and many Krishna temples they have created, big on Bhakti Marg. That is the only thing I knew about Osho. I didn't know anything. So I downloaded everything for my dad. Sorry, just telling you this story just to tell you how things work in real life. And I was walking in a street in Hong Kong in Wan Chai, and there was some book sale outside. Okay, old books. So some $2, $3 book. Okay, which said Yoga, the Science of Soul, Osho. I just saw this. Okay, Osho, Science of Soul, Yoga. I said, looks good. I picked it up. It happened to be the book which gave dive down detail into what is Ashtanga Yoga. For the first time, it was like somebody lit like 1,000 bulbs in my head. Like, oh my God, this is what it means. After that, I started searching and I started looking for none of his books are available under title of Yoga Sutra. So they're so difficult to find. I didn't know, but some books I found. So I started working like that. I completed a very large part of chapter 1 and 2 with him just through study. It's amazing. Every time you sit with Osho, it's like everything disappears. Even now, as I was going through my notes, if I just sit and listen to what he's saying, just read what he's saying, everything outside disappears. You just get absorbed in him. Third chapter, I wanted to study so much. I went to my teacher, I asked him, and whatever, we couldn't fix the dates, it didn't happen. Then I also left. I was at the airport, on a Chennai airport, walked into a bookstall. I said I should pick up some Osho books. I just said yoga, Osho, I picked up. I didn't even know what I was picking up, okay? But I had this longing, chapter 3, I want to know what does it really mean. I picked up 2, 3 books, whatever. And it so happened that two of those books were on chapter 3 and 4. By their title, I would have never found them. I just randomly walk in the airport on a bookstore, which I was not even planning to, it's just like I had time and I just walked in and it came. And that showed me nobody today in all the search that I have done, chapter 3 and 4, they will address it, but it is so shallow. They will not explain the science behind the siddhis, how this happens. What is it? What kind of concentration do people go through? Only Osho. That is why Osho is considered so, he doesn't care what people think. He doesn't care about society. He doesn't care about it. He says that which is of value, someone should speak of this. Everybody wants to work in a socially accepted. If you are not socially savvy, it creates problem. I don't know how many of you know of Sadhguru's past life also. He was not socially savvy. It created a lot of problem. Dhyanalinga could not have been created. So this lifetime, he said, social savviness is very important because he says ignorance has a power of its own. The ignorance of people has such a power that it will not let you function. So you have to respect ignorance. Very intelligent, very, very intelligent. You try fighting with ignorance, you will break your head. Nothing. But Osho was like that. He didn't care. He knew some things had to be said. So, he disturbed the Hindus, he disturbed the Jainis. He spoke as it is what he saw. And so incisive, so deep. Nobody talks like that. Nobody would, everybody will be concerned, because everybody is running some institution or organization. Only in intimate gatherings, certain things may be shared, but again, without labels, no names, which is good. I think anybody who is on the path, like we have in our intimate discussions, Sadhguru would bring up certain ideas. He doesn't name, he will not put, but the knowledge and the understanding will be passed on to you. So I am sorry, I digressed big time, but just for you to have a background, this should work like a story, like a journey. Yoga Sutras should work like that. We should learn from each other's experiences also. So please feel free to share your experiences. If you have something to say, just pause. You can talk, you can share on the group chat. Now, the next one, Viparya. Right knowledge. Then comes your mind can be on right knowledge. It can be functioning from the right center, but your mind can also be in the wrong center. Where whatever you see, it's like a distorted mirror. Now, even if you put the perfect thing in front of it, it will see incorrectly. No, I have actually gone into a argument once with a very dear friend, and I felt so bad. It was like terrible. But it came to a point where I felt like whatever I said, it will be misunderstood because the mirror is distorted right now. Whatever, maybe sometimes we go through certain things in life, and whatever we see, so it's like in the you go, you are among friends, your friend is not talking to you nicely. Now you think that, oh, I must have done something, I must have said something, he's not happy with me. How do you know? Something else may have happened in their life. Some family situation, some child situation. You've heard of that story. uh, it used to come on WhatsApp forwards. There is a man who is sitting on the bench in the park, and his child is howling and crying. Somebody else comes to the park, and he's like looking at him, saying, "What kind of a father is he? Not even taking care of his child, disturbing everybody. He should at least." But that man is simply sitting quietly and letting the child cry, throw tantrums. Finally, this man gets so irritated, he goes and tells him, "Please take care of your child. Just take him somewhere, whatever. He's making so much noise, disturbing all of us, our morning meditation, etc." And this man says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. His mother passed away yesterday." We go around passing judgments on people, thinking, "Oh, they are like this, they are not." How do you know what's happening in their life? What they are going through? This is called wrong center functioning. You think you know, but you don't know. This is called wrong center, viparyaya. Whatever you see is mistaken. So a classic example, if you study the texts and commentaries, they give this example of a rope. You're walking in a dark night, your foot steps on a rope and you think it's a snake. Now, because you get afraid, all of that chemistry changes, fear chemistry happens. But the moment the light is put on, you see, array, this is just a rope. So right knowledge, pramana, you should work from praman is like a right center. Don't think praman means physical evidence. No, praman is the right center of knowledge that exists in every human being, but it needs to be activated. The way to activate is through meditation, concentration, prayer, and silent sitting. These are the ways to activate the right center within ourselves. Otherwise, you will be on wrong knowledge. You will be in viparyaya. So, viparyaya mithya jnanam atadrupa pratishtham. Viparyaya will give you mithya jnanam. What is not true is what your mind will keep believing to be true. So there is no, and this itself should give us some insight into there is no need to judge. There is no need to put labels on people. Don't think you know. The reason why we put labels and we become judgmental is because we think we know, isn't it? We are so identified with, I know it, you must be like this, or some, and more worse, one is we judge others, we also judge ourselves. I'm such a horrible person, I didn't do this. No, this is also a vritti. It's just a wave in the mind. Watch it. Okay, today this is happening to me. This is how life is flowing today. You are simply a seer. Just simply watch. Yes, today I may be lazy, I may not have got up, it's fine, but don't label yourself, I'm a lazy person, I'm this. No, today there seems to be a wave of laziness on me. Tomorrow it will change. You do not become a certain thing. Don't be so identified with I know. Be more identified with I don't know. Because the moment you say I know, you have locked the gates. How much can you know? Can you know everything in the world? You cannot know, no? That which is not known will always be greater than that which is known. So if you say I know, you have locked. You will never be open to new possibilities. So the first thing for a seeker to say is I don't know, and be willing to take that step into I don't know. Be willing to make that step into darkness and say I don't know. Okay, fine. Let's see. Maybe, maybe not. This is very important. So see, there is this whole idea of skeptic and suspicious. A skeptic person will say I don't know, maybe, maybe not. A suspicious person will say बकवास, तुमको कुछ पता ही नहीं, तुम यही सब बोलते रहते हो. See, you've heard of paranormal experiences. Even if we hear of Buddha, uh, his entire, he lived for what? I've forgotten, huh? 543 lifetimes. I think it was 543 lifetimes. Think it was that, yeah, were revealed to him. His entire, if you read Sadhguru's biography, it is there. There is talk about that. So anyone who becomes enlightened, he can see his whole past lifetime. He can see the whole drama that has happened. So 543 lifetimes, even if you went into a satsang with a man like Buddha, people of those times, they were so natural. They didn't have all these complexes, mental burdens that they were carrying. So they came into this knowing and just seeing of their past. If you talk like this today to a educated mind, which only believes in that which is scientific and proven, past lifetimes also for a very long time in the Western culture was like, what nonsense are you talking? This is it. Brian Weiss, who wrote his book, was so afraid to speak because he thought he would put his career online, but he was beginning to see this. And he took the courage to do this. Of course, he got great acclaim, and today he has a center, and all this is slowly opening up. But suppose you are suspicious, you will say, this is all nonsense. Isko kuch pata hi nahi hai. He doesn't know anything, as if you know a lot. The reason why you pass a judgment, the mind passes, not you. And this is how the mind functions. This is the nature of the mind. All our minds are like this only. If we become identified with what I know, the mind will pass judgment and it will close itself. I know this is all nonsense. So suspicious is a very it's like you're digging your own grave. You're not going to, you'll keep coming back. There is no possibility for liberation, but skeptic is a good thing. Maybe it is possible, maybe it's not possible, I don't know. So Yoga Sutra is telling us, but there should be a certain longing and curiosity that if this exists, I want to know. What do I have to know? Okay, I'll take this hypothesis. This scripture, or this guru is telling me, do this much, keep trying and see where it will take me. We have, those of you practice have had experiences. I don't need to go into it. You're all seekers. You've had your experiences to show you that, my God, what is being said, there is some truth to this. This is working. What made it work? And it takes you deeper and deeper. So trust is important. Something, somewhere, we'll come to it. All right, so mind's capacity for wrong knowledge. Now, people who have a wrong center, even if they see the right thing, they're, they will see what is wrong. They will go in front of a man like Buddha, and they will see everything is incorrect. They will start creating, they will find faults even with them. See his cousin, Devadrat, Buddha's cousin Devadrat. He was very jealous of him. He wanted to roll the stone at him and kill him. Many people had problems with Buddha. Jesus was put on a cross for saying, I am the Son of God. It was self-evidently true to him. I am the Son of God. Do I need to prove this to you? So when the mind is on right knowledge, no external proof is necessary. It's like this. Do I have to prove to you that I am in love? How can I prove it? I cannot prove it. I love somebody. How can I prove it? There is no proof. It is self-evidently true to me. It is self-evident. Just like I'm in a dark room and you want me to prove to you that I'm in the room. No, it is self-evidently true to me. I know I am in the room. I don't need an external proof. I don't need to show you any proof. So praman does not mean this external evidence. Praman means the right center of knowledge is very active in you. You know it. You don't need any proof. This is how Jesus knew, I am the Son of God. He said this. This was called blasphemy. Muhammad had said this. Anahul Haq. He was stoned for it. How can you talk like this? You don't know. You are calling yourself God. No, it's not like I'm calling myself God. I have come into that consciousness. What is available to them is available to me. I can also see my consciousness has risen. But if it happens to a live human being among us, we say, Are to bakwas kar raha hai. He becomes dead. People start following him. He becomes a guru. This is a very common thing. This is how the mind functions. See, even Krishna, Duryodhan could not see in Krishna what Arjun could see, no? It depends on your mind. If your pramana, if your right center is functioning, you will see, or you will at least be a skeptic and say, I don't know, and you will walk in a certain direction. Okay. The mind, wrong center means the mind has the capacity to pervert anything. This is also a capacity of the mind. Switch the wrong center, it will pervert anything. So Osho gives a lovely example. And see, largely my comment, whatever I'm sharing is dominated from Osho. He says, see, हम in our culture we say, no, अरे इतने पाप करे हैं, पाप गंगा में जाके स्नान कर लो, पाप धुल जाएंगे तुम्हारे, right? We say this in our culture. Now people can stretch this to absurd levels, to an absurd extent, and they will say, it's okay. You keep doing whatever you want to do. Aaj kar lo, koi farak nahi padta. Tomorrow we will go bathe in the Ganga. Our sins will be washed off. This is ridiculous. This is not what our culture was telling you. Our culture was saying, don't burden yourself with guilt. Don't burden yourself with guilt, because this will make your journey into life, into seeking difficult. So just go and unburden yourself. It is not giving you a license to say, keep committing sins, keep doing wrong things, and then you can go wash your sins in the Ganga. Another example he gives. So, he gives this example of Mullah Nasiruddin. I think I have this. Okay. So Mullah Nasiruddin goes to a Sufi fakir and he says, I, I have heard so much about your wisdom. Please give me some guidance. I want to do something, follow some teaching that I receive from you. So that fakir says, "Acha, tum bas ek baat yaad rakho. Neki kar kuएं में डाल." You do good, but you forget about it. Okay, you don't keep thinking, "Oh, I did good. What he will do to me? How somebody should be grateful to me? Whatever." No, neki kar kuएं में डाल. Forget about it. Don't keep thinking about it. So Mullah Nasiruddin said, yes. Now this man, Mullah Nasiruddin, walks. He's in his village. He's walking in the field. Then he finds a blind woman who needs help uh, crossing the river or whatever, and he helps her. Then he helps her. Then he picks her up and he throws her in the well. So people come and they are like, obviously, that, hey, are you crazy? What have you done? He receives so much backlashing from society. And then he goes back to the fakir. He said, you told me, neki kar kuएं में डाल. Now what to say to this person? Whatever you say to him, it will be perverted. That is why they say, don't get into arguments, because ignorance is such a strong power in people. At the same time, don't create this superiority thing within yourself that, oh, I know, so I'm going to be quiet. It is just that, okay, I know something, but this is not the right time to put it, because maybe they have not seen what I have seen. Not that we are in knowing of absolute truth either, but some things have been exposed as we study, as we put ourselves through experience. So it's important in daily life to find that balance. Otherwise, if you are, working among spiritual seekers, and if you start sharing, and I know, because I have been close to so many people with whom I've had this relationship, we have shared our spiritual journey. Some of them have come and confided in me. I was like, Swati, I don't know what, my brother-in-law, he was just arguing with me. It created so much tension and you feel so bad, you just feel so bad. I said, क्यों जाके बात करती है अपने path के बारे में? Their path is different. So their experiences will be different. So you cannot share your experience with that. It will not match. It's like this. There is a mountain. You are walking from the east, someone is walking from the west. You both are walking towards the peak. It's not to say that they are wrong, but to appreciate that they may be right, your understanding will have to be a little bit wider, or to at least respect that. They are walking from the west, their landscape will be different, their experience will be different. You are walking from the east, your landscape and experience will be different. It doesn't mean that they are wrong. A person who is following Jesus, who is following Buddha, or someone who is doing yoga, they are everybody. At least I think we should delight and be respectful of the fact that we are in the company of people who are making an effort, whatever direction. At least they are making an effort. Don't get into arguments. Don't discuss if you want to discuss, it is helpful to have a sangha, because we want to sometimes get a better understanding of our own experience, what is happening to us in this practice. Like sometimes I would talk to my teacher or with fellow practitioners. Even I share my experiences, but people following the same path, then it becomes, then there is not so much fight and argument, because you understand. And sometimes if you don't, you can share your knowledge, they can share their knowledge, and it really helps everybody. But you start talking and getting into arguments with people who are following other paths, you will make misery for yourself and for others. Don't get into arguments, never. Manoj also would say, he said, it's like you can share if you want. If you're open, you listen. And I will share something very nice on argument that Osho had once shared. It's a beautiful, where does argument come from? It's a little story, a historical truth. Goes back to Pythagoras' triumphs, and how anything that can be proven can also be disproven. So argument itself is useless. There is no point in argument. You will not know the truth by argument. Remember, mind does not take you to bliss. Mind can only take you to no misery, but bliss will happen when mind dissolves. Argument belongs to mind. So I just wanted to say that. So the if the wrong center starts functioning, it will pervert everything that it comes in front of it. So how do I build the right center? Meditation gives you the centering. See, in yoga, we always say, no, become centered. That is what it means. Become centered. From a place of balance, you move into life day to day, moment to moment. That's why yoga practice happens moment to moment. So when I started this class with sharing my reflections on the distinction between self-restraint and repression. So if you just have the time, and it really, I did that because you had brought that up. It's a fine line, but there's a way to know whether I'm in suppression or I'm in self-restraint. So you can look at that if you go to the recording, the first 15, 20 minutes. So concentration, meditation, contemplation, and prayer strengthens the right center in you. Now, one very cute example Osho gives. So right center information is not coming to you from the external world. It is coming through inside. Okay, so this is not necessary, but anyhow, let's just do this. So there is this teacher, who's teaching primary class students, and a student gets up and asks this question to the teacher: what is the weight of the earth? I want to know. So the teacher, she doesn't know the weight of the earth, but she cannot, these are little children. She cannot show her ignorance. She says, that's a really significant question. Tomorrow we must all make an effort and find out what the weight of the earth is, and let's see who comes up with the right answer. So all the students go, they start searching, they can't find. Now this teacher spends all night in the library searching what is the weight of the earth. She finally finds some answer in some book. Next day morning she comes to the class, says, okay, so has everybody found the answer? And the student said, we tried, we couldn't find the answer. We asked our parents, we looked up the books, but we couldn't find it. So then the teacher says, okay, let me tell you. And she says, this is the weight of the earth. Now the student who asked this question gets up and says, with people or without people? So that is the way the mind functions. That is the way external information will function. If you ask a Buddha, he simply turns. So it is not about worldly information, but he will simply turn his light and see where a question is coming from, and he addresses that. It is not the what, it is where it is coming from. In you, when you act and work in life, it is not about what you do, it's how you do. So that is now the right center. The right knowing center, it's pratyaksh. It creates right knowing. There is no need for proof, right? It's like, if you ask Jesus to prove it to me that you are the Son of God, you said you are the Son of God, he will laugh at you. He says, I simply know. I don't need any proof. You don't want to believe, don't believe. What is my problem? You do, that's all right. If you don't agree, you don't agree. Now, just like what I said, can you prove that you are in love? No. If your leg is in pain and you say, no, there's so much pain in my leg. Somebody says, prove it to me, you have pain in your leg. Are I have pain in my leg, I know. Of course, today we have scientific instruments that are detecting your pain and all of that, but I'm just speaking from a general point of view. Prama, the means by which one obtains accurate and valid knowledge, is called praman. So don't think that it's just in the external world, okay? Only from my senses I'm going to get praman and right knowledge. No, you will be very limited. You will get right knowledge and information, but good and useful to conduct your daily life, samsaric life. If you're walking the spiritual path, it is limited. You have to make the true center of praman function in you. The center of praman exists in you, not in the books, not on the web, not just from people. That is only for samsaric life. Keeps the external situations in place. Very good, very useful and helpful. Now, when the wrong center functions, what happens? I told you that when the wrong center functions, we see everything distorted. This is directly from Osho. I just wanted to put this up. When you can rightly know and there is no need to prove, then only mind can be dropped, not before it. If your mind is asking for proof, it means you're still stuck in the mind. When there is no need to prove, mind is not needed, because mind itself is a logical instrument. Mind means duality. Understand what does mind means? It duality. Yes, no, right, wrong. Where does all of this belong to? This belongs to mind. This is the nature of the mind, right? Mind itself is dualistic. So when you say, I follow the path of Advaita Vedanta, but remember this, Advaita is an experience that happens inside you. But the whole sadhana of Advaita is actually dualistic. You cannot practice non-dualism. Even if you practice non-dualism, the practice per se is dualistic. And I am quoting Swami Tattvamayananda, who is the head of the Vedanta Society of, I think, North Carolina. He himself said that Advaita is an experience of oneness that will happen inside you, which happened to a Jesus, which we see in the Kaivalya Pada of the 4th chapter of Yoga Sutras. Even in the end, he will explain how in a state of samadhi you come into that experience of oneness. But the practice is not oneness. The practice is dualistic. It is always like that because you're using your intellect. Now, I want to take this up because these questions can also be our questions. Osho was asked in his commentary, one of the audience asked, capacity of right knowledge is one of the 5 faculties of the mind, correct? We began this by saying that that vrittis are of 5 kinds: praman, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra. We spoke of praman and viparyaya, right knowledge or wrong knowledge. So the person says, but it is not a state of no mind. Praman is not a state of no mind. It is simply a state of right knowing, correct? This is a question that is being asked. Then how is it possible that whatsoever one sees through this center is true? So Osho's reply, and I'll take it directly from him, we'll go through it. Ignorance is of the mind, correct? Just keep like going through it. Knowledge is also of the mind, correct? Both belong to the mind. Now, this Osho has agreed. He says, yes, the center of right knowledge, praman, is still within the mind. Praman, the right center of knowledge, also exists in the mind. That is why we are talking in the practice of yoga to center ourselves. Now, mind knows something. So mind can be ignorant. How can you be ignorant? You can be ignorant only if you know something. If you don't know anything, if you know, you are ignorant of something else. Something you will always know. So there will be an opposite to that. When there is no mind, how can you be ignorant or how can you be knowing? Just be with this. When you have no mind, there is no duality. There is no either or. There is no choice. There is a choicelessness stage. There is no positive or negative. In a no mind state, there is no positive or negative. Only in a mind state, mental faculty, a positive and negative approach exists. A positive and negative thought exists. True? Are we on the same page? Yeah, give me a thumbs up. Okay. All right. Then you can come into a state where you transcend the mind. There is no mind, which is Satchitananda. Scriptures go on saying that all duality is transcended. Oh, you are reading Gita, you're reading Yoga Sutra, you're reading Drig Drishya Viveka, you are you're doing all of these studies, scriptural study, and scriptures saying duality is transcended. But remember, when they use the word knowledge, they say you will come into knowledge. Now, this word knowledge also needs good definition. Knowledge is of 2 kinds. Knowledge is this external knowledge, information based. We are not speaking, when they are talking duality is transcended, they are not speaking, the knowledge is also part of duality because many times texts are simply concerned with information based knowledge. Many times, at least in the initial levels of study. So, knowledge is also part of duality, ignorance versus knowledge. True knowledge, which we call as Gyan ki Prapti, enlightenment, is not knowledge. It is actually knowing. There is a difference between knowledge and knowing. Okay. See, it's like this. Pratyaksh, 5 fingers. I can see there are 5 fingers. Okay. It's pratyaksh. Right? Now, if I want to know this, do I need someone else to tell me that I have 5 fingers? No. I know I have 5 fingers. It is self-evidently true. I know it. So knowledge and knowing are 2 different things. Often knowledge in all of Osho's commentaries and how he has explained both in the Gita and Yoga Sutra, and I follow this. When I say knowledge, I'm speaking on that which is obtained from external sources. Knowing or genuine gyan, you coming into a state of enlightenment, is that which is happening as the mind drops, you come into a no mind state. So right center is still knowledge based. It is based out of that, but it is not the chitta facing outwards, it is chitta facing inwards. Remember, we spoke in that diagram, there is chitta consciousness which lights up everything, but it is always flowing inwards. When this chitta, when the buddhi turns inwards, the light of consciousness becomes face to face with its source. Then this light of consciousness, buddhi can turn here and its light will function in a certain way. So this is the center of praman which exists in the mind. But the one who transcends the mind, he's simply in a state of advaita. There is no need, there are no thoughts in his mind. You know, he becomes thoughtless. We struggle to be without thoughts when we close our eyes and sit. No, so Sadhguru says the eyelids are meant for you to shut the world. You shut the world, but it is also, but you can't really shut the world. Even though you shut the world, there is a whole lot of private world going on in your head. So we are still in the mind. So no mind means a person who is in such a state of transcendence that if he wants, thoughts can shut. But if he wants, he can use the knowledge. He can use the praman to answer that. It does not mean he cannot engage in the world. It does not mean he cannot talk. He has forgotten his language. It does not mean he has become stupid. You understand? He abides in a no mind state. A Buddha abides in a no mind state. But if a human being in the external world, in samsara, comes and puts a question to him, he can simply use the right center to turn. So many people ask questions to Osho Sadhguru. They are giving these answers. They are speaking on Yoga Sutras. How do they speak? They simply turn their right center of knowledge and shine it on Yoga Sutras. And I'm telling you, this is purely my own felt experience. When Osho talks, he is channeling Patanjali. He does not exist. He's simply channeling Patanjali because Osho is not. Really, I'm telling you, he's not. If you look at his various texts, he can also be speaking of something which is completely contradictory to what Yoga Sutra is saying. So he's never saying, I am saying. What Patanjali is saying, he's saying, if he is speaking of somebody, of something, say in the Upanishads, which is not corroborating with it, a particular idea, he's speaking that. He's not, it is not that he is against this. Wherever, so person who has transcended and come into a no mind state, he simply coalesces with the object in front of him. Like the iron ball goes into the fire, takes that color and only reveals that color. Like that, a person who transcends the mind will fall into the color of Yoga Sutra and simply offer Patanjali to you. But he can come out of it. Our problem is we get bound by it, we get stuck in it. But Osho can go dip himself in Yoga Sutra and only Yoga Sutra and Patanjali. Then he can come out of it. Then somebody tells him, tell me Gita. He will point his knowledge here. So in Gita, there are chapters which may contradict certain other ideas you may have studied in some other scripture, maybe in a Christian scripture, maybe in a Bible. I say, I'm just picking examples, okay? It could contradict, but when he is turning his center of right knowledge, because knowledge is needed for external, when you're studying in the external, when you're living in the external world, he dips himself into the Gita. I am telling you, he is like, it's like a flute, you know, he's like a hollow flute, and Krishna simply shines through him. He becomes Krishna because he dips himself into Krishna. We, first of all, what is our problem? Why can't we be like these enlightened beings? First of all, we don't know how to dive fully. We don't know how to dip totally and become one with it. This is our first problem. To the extent that we dive, we get stuck. We have this thread holding us here, and then we have outside threads also which are holding us and pulling us. They don't care. Outside thread, family, whatever. No, they have dropped the samsara. They're totally into it. Does this make sense to you? Is this creating more clarity in you? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. So my goodness, it is 8:30. Do you have time? Do you want to go on or do you want me to stop? It's up to you. It all depends on you. I can go on if you want me to go on, and I thought I would complete the 5 vrittis and we could start, but it depends. If you're in a hurry, I don't want to do it. If you are tired and you want to just be with this, you be. Whatever number of hours it will take us, we will go through it. We will go through it nicely. It's a boat ride. It's a journey. Enjoy this and make this a part of your life. So you tell me if you want me to continue, I'll continue. Are we good? Let's go. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's go on then. So pratyaksh anumanagama pramanani, right knowledge, right perception. So far we have discussed this. Okay, pratyaksh, direct perception, seeing, and therefore I have the praman. It is something pratyaksh, direct. It is not evidence which somebody proves in the external world. Self-evidently, I know, bhaiya, you don't have to tell me. I know. So, people who want to argue with me or say that, what you are doing is wrong, this path is not correct, you are following these gurus, they will take you. Okay, fine, you can think, what can I say? You don't have an experience of a guru. I know what has happened to me. In a certain presence, what has happened. So guru is also not, he's not a person. Guru is a phenomena that can happen inside you. It depends. Is your condition ready to experience that phenomena? Lightning or thunder can only happen when certain conditions in the environment are ready, no? Someone says, you're crazy, you're talking about lightning and thunder. There is no such thing as lightning and thunder. अब मैं तुम्हें क्या बोलूं? If someday your conditions become like that, you will also have that experience. It's just a matter of time. It will. So everybody carries these seeds. It is, and we cannot say when this will sprout. Sometimes we are carrying this from many lifetimes. So certain seeds and the soil has been ready, it has been tilled. Now, if a certain drop of water comes into it, some seed will sprout. This is why Guru is called a phenomena, it is not a person. It is simply that in a certain presence of a certain consciousness, things happen inside you. It has many of, if you have had such an experience, I mean, I'm surrounded by seekers, I am surrounded by people who believe, who disbelieve, and it's totally fine. There is nothing wrong, there is nothing high, low. Uh, the people who have done, everybody has to go through their own journey. We don't know which direction you are walking from, so it is stupid to pass any judgments. Some people may find their guru only in a Krishna, only in the God, only in the scripture, but if their devotion to it is absolute, that itself becomes a guru for them. See, it is not the, sometimes Osho says, it is not the person or the guru, it is what is happening inside you because of that presence. Sometimes a guru can be wrong. Osho says, what is your problem? Let him be wrong. Within you, what is your level of devotion? What is your level of sincerity and purity in following a certain path? If you are like that, you will go through transcendence no matter what happens to that guru. But usually, if you are in a certain state of longing, if you have sincerity and purity, you will not be led incorrectly. You will not be led. There is something called as grace in life. Grace will lead you into right direction. It will take you there. So I just wanted to point that out because okay, let's go on. Now, okay, we are still with the first one. Right knowledge. So we can come into right knowledge through pratyaksh, through something self-evidently true, but you can also know something through inference. In a very shallow way, I explained in the samsaric world, we know party hui thi. I know it because I see some things here. So how do we know? Through anuman. So if we go deeper into this, this is the second source of right knowledge. Now you see this universe. There is a solar system, there's a gravitational force, there is the moon's pull on the water body. There are 9 planets, they're revolving around the sun. There seems to be some kind of an order in the cosmos, no? It is amazing, it's beautiful how this is functioning with so much order and so much perfection. Now, okay, right logic, right doubting, right argument can give you something which can help you towards real knowledge. Suppose pratyaksh or evidence is not available to you. This center is not working inside me right now. Then how can I know something? Use anumana. This is where, we'll look at this. So you can use arguments, etc. It helps to a certain degree. But arguments, what is a good argument? Argument does not mean, see, this is something which comes up in the Gita, which the clarity came to me there. Argument is not about, I am right and you are wrong. Krishna in the Vishwarup Darshan, I forget the exact sutra, he says, I am the result of the argument. He says, I am among the wielders of weapon, I am Ram. When Arjun asks Krishna, who are you? How do I know your nature? He says, I am like 1,000 effulgent suns. He says, among the wielders of weapon, I am like Ram. And this has been explained beautifully why he's saying this, what is the meaning behind it. He also says, I am the result of an argument. But here, normally in our way we understand argument is I am right, you are wrong. One person has been proven to be right and the other person has proven to be wrong. This is good argument. Oh, you won. Clap, clap, clap. No, tark is not like this. There is kutark, there is vitark, there is tark. There is simply tark, arguing for the sake of arguing. Nothing wants to come out of it. Kutark means you are sticking, idiotically stuck up and trying to prove that which is wrong to be right. This is called kutark in life. There is something called as vitark. When two people present opposing ideas, but not with an intention to defeat or push the other person down. It is simply that both want to grow in knowledge and want to come up with an experience. Like, see, Vinay has been into spiritual practices for a long time. He's been into it since 15 years. His family is into it. He's seen a lot. He was sharing some experience with me. His idea was not to argue with me. I may have a completely opposite uh, uh, thought process to that. Okay. But I'm also not arguing or imposing. The idea is to put our experiences together so light grows both for him and for me. I will also understand something new. I will also see. He will also see. This is called actual tark. This is the idea of inference. It is not about proving, disproving. Tum galat ho, main sahi hu. It is not about ego aggrandizement. It is not about getting established in ahamkar. It is that my that the only thing which is burning in you is I want liberation. The only thing which is burning in you is I want to know. Enlightenment should happen to me. And with this as my goal, I am willing to be in exchange of ideas that can be opposing, similar, which shine more light. See, it informs our practice. Many times I tell people first study Yoga Sutras, then go to Bhagavad Gita, because Yoga Sutras shines the light so nicely on Bhagavad Gita. It becomes so easy to understand. Otherwise, Bhagavad Gita is complex. It speaks of so many parts that if you don't have a solid foundation, you will get confused. It is, or your understanding will just be very shallow, very superficial understanding of Gita. And uh, all right. So, when you are in the mind, you are still in duality. You are still in logic, and logic can be double-edged. You can use it for vitark, which is the way I explained, to exchange information, to argue, to increase your light. Or you can simply be here, I want to prove you wrong. I will prove you wrong. This is the agenda of my life. Even if I am wrong, I will prove you wrong. This is kutark. So Osho says kutark bhi hota hai. And this can happen to, great thinkers also, not just ordinary people. So he says Diderot, who is a French philosopher thinker, he says if there is so much order in the universe, such perfection in the universe, there must be something behind that is running this universe. Okay. He says, I don't believe in God. Because if this person who is behind this universe and has created such perfection and order in this universe, he must make mistakes sometimes. No human being is perfect. So I don't believe in God. Okay. This was his logical conclusion. Now, what has he done? Inference means inference means you keep your gates open. He has made a conclusion about something that he does not know yet. He's simply trying to explore. He has closed his gates. He's suspicious. And now no new knowledge is possible for him. This is called kutark. Okay. Versus somebody who says, oh my God, this is like, there is some organizing principle behind this universe. Wow. You simply say it's a mystery. We speak of the mysteries of the universe. Not everything can be known, but there must be something. There's a dharma of the universe, just like there's a dharma of the tree. There's a dharma of the universe that it is moment to moment keeping itself organized in a certain way. How beautiful. What a mystery. When you speak like this, There is an inference based on some knowledge that is available, that you are seeing outside in your environment, some inference that you are drawing. There is a dharma, there is a principle that is guiding, that is organizing everything, keeping it in its place. The earth is keeping you on the earth. You're not flying in space. There is a gravitational pull that keeps you grounded. So, right inference is that which gives you possibilities of growth. This is called right inference. If you are closing the gates, Sadhguru says, just be open. You become stuck to stupid conclusions in your life. This is death. Stupid conclusions. Don't create that. You've heard him say that. I'm telling you, Sadhguru is chapter 1 to 4 a walking, talking Yoga Sutra. This man does not need to study. That's why they say, no, enlightened being, tumko scripture nahi aata, to tum enlightened kaise ho sakte ho? There are, I have heard of teachers who will talk like this, that he must be, they define a guru, okay? They also admit that somebody can come into the Guru Tattva or an enlightened state by his own nature. Ramakrishna Paramhans never studied any scripture. Just by his practice and his bhakti, he became enlightened. He was a mystic also. Ramakrishna was a mystic, never went to school. Ramana Maharishi never studied any scripture. So sometimes I have seen, like, again, from my interactions with people, they will say, a guru is this, he will know this, he will follow what he teaches, he will have all knowledge of scriptures. Yes, he will have knowledge of scriptures, but not necessarily by study. He simply becomes that because he is in that state of consciousness. So if you ask him a question which is even related to the scripture, he will give you the same answer that you will also find in scripture. Maybe in a different language, he will put it in a common language, but the essence and truth is the same. Because I have been with Sadhguru, I have also studied the Yoga Sutras. I see this. I mean, it's right there. Even all his programs are organized like this, chapter 1 to 4. It is like that. There is a Samyama program, which is the 3rd chapter where we speak of Samyama. So for me, he's like a walking, talking Yoga Sutra. Many times he explains things in a simple way, but this is what even the Yoga Sutras are telling us. So they say he becomes the scripture. There are people who study the scriptures also and they will become enlightened. Like I have heard of, have you heard of mystics? Do you know of Neem Karoli Baba? Neem Karoli Baba. Neem Karoli Baba is from Uttarakhand. Sadhguru also speaks very highly of him. You know of Ram Das? Ram Das, he was from Harvard. He was into psychology and he came up with this idea that you just take LSDs and you can come into states of liberation. You'll feel free and all of that. He took his LSDs to Neem Karoli Baba in India. Neem Karoli Baba just took packets of it and kept eating. And Ram Das was shocked to the extent Sadhguru says that Ram Das just did this one sensible thing. He did not come into a state. Ram Das became an enlightened being. He said the only thing that Ram Das did right was that he had the sense to sit close to a man like Neem Karoli Baba. Neem Karoli Baba was a great Hanuman Bhakt. He was a big yoga practitioner. उन्होंने कुंडलिनी योगा वगैरह सब कुछ किया. But he was a great Hanuman Bhakt. He came into enlightenment. He was also married. He had children. He was called, he's like a man around whom miracles just happened, He was a mystic. He had mastery on all of this, If you've read autobiography of a yogi, we hear of Lahiri Mahasya. He can create cauliflowers under the bed, right? Neem Karoli Baba was like that. So once, I will tell you this story again to give you a background. There was an Agarwal family or somebody who established a temple in Uttarakhand and they asked Neem Karoli Baba कि किसी पुजारी को अपॉइंट करना है यहाँ पर कोई priest है. So Neem Karoli Baba told this young boy, he said, you go become the priest, do all the puja and the vidhi there. So this man who owned the temple became very angry, saying, इसको तो शास्त्र का ज्ञान नहीं है. He does not know any Gita, nothing, and you have made him. He was very angry. Neem Karoli Baba was like that. If you watch him, you should watch this documentary called The Windfall of Grace. If you have time, I'll share the link. And he walked in angry. You just like walked in and he said, क्या बोल रहा है तू? इसको कुछ पता नहीं है. He took his blanket and he did something. He hit this man on his head. And this man recited. He recited the whole chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That day, the man who had built that temple, no, he fell at Neem Karoli Baba's feet. Never questioned. Because Neem Karoli Baba said, Whether he knows scriptures or not, his essence and his truth he established in. After that, he never chanted. That boy himself says, I don't know how this came out of me. I don't know any Sanskrit. So there are many things that become possible. But Neem Karoli Baba is really, there is something so endearing about him. I don't know. I feel that in his presence. I have gone to Neem Karoli Baba ashram in Vrindavan, and very beautiful presence. I've been to his samadhi. He always says it's amazing how people in the West. There is one person who shares his story that I was in a taxi, no connection with spirituality, nothing. He was in a taxi and he saw Neem Karoli's Baba's photo in the taxi. He saw that and he had tears falling in his eyes. He said, after that, I researched and I went to Nainital and be with him. I will tell you a very a very personal story. My own friend, a dear friend of mine, okay, a very dear friend of mine, she told me, Swati, I don't know why this number is going on in my head. She's an artist, again, very connected to the subtle realm in some way. But very well grounded and everything. So she said, but this number, she keeps seeing this number everywhere, whether it's behind a car or, in my bank state, everywhere, phone number, this number keeps appearing. And we were both wondering, numerology, kuch hoga. Anyways, we left it. We couldn't figure out anything. A few months ago, she told me, she said, Swati, that number is the pin code of Nainital, where Neem Karoli Baba used to be there. She said, I knew nothing of Neem Karoli Baba, nothing. And she said, I just took his photo. I mean, it appeared on my computer and I had tears rolling down my eyes. She said, I don't know what happened. She said, till that day, whatever I had heard in Yoga Sutras or whatever, I didn't believe it. I mean, not that I didn't believe it, but she said, I didn't know this, but it happened to me. And this happens to people. Neem Karoli Baba says, every time you put my photo like this, no, I am there. I am there. I'm coming through that. He has said that in that documentary. Beautiful, lovely man. He was always about feed people, bhakti mein raho, khana brings you fulfillment, or Bhagwan ka dhyan karo. He says he only gave this sadhana. He said chant Ram, 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 Ram. Just chant this, nothing else. Valmiki was given this. Neem Karoli Baba, he was a Hanuman Bhakt, great, wonderful. If you have a chance, look him up. He's quite amazing. There is there is just a sense of love and endearment which flows, when I see him. It just happens. It's like you just feel he just draws you. So, and very very sweet he is, and worked with, like common people, and people are surrounding him all the time, helped people in many ways. If he saw somebody wasn't too much, he'd be so compassionate. Something he will do, he will energize something, create yantras, consecrations. All these things can only happen by mystics. Only mystics can do this. So all right, let's move on. So that is on inference. Now, you can know something by inference, but remember, right tark. Vitark is the right kind of tark. Kutark is, you understood what kutark is, and tark is simply arguing for the heck of it. Nothing. I just want to show I know something. So let me engage in an argument with you. This is a very nice story. Sorry, I will do this. Okay, but very cute. This is from Osho's Bhagavad Gita. He shared this story. So there is a man in a village, and everybody thinks he's foolish. He doesn't know anything. So he goes to this saint and he says, everybody thinks like this about me. They make fun of me. I don't know what to do. He says, you do this simple thing. Anybody comes and say anything to you just say no to it. You just simply saying, no, it is not like this. You don't know this. And people will start thinking you are very great. So he's a simple man. Whatever he says, he follows. So somebody comes and says, there is God. He says, no, there is no God. You don't know. You have not explored like this. So he keeps talking like this. And suddenly everybody feels, he must know something. He must know more than me. Mind, this is how a negative mind functions. No, no, no. No means the nature of mind. Every time you say no, mind strengthens. When you say yes, mind dissolves. Okay, remember that, because this is coming up when we speak of Vitark, Vichar, Ananda, Smita. We will speak of the first stage of Samadhi. The yes mind is a different mind. Okay, the third way of knowing something. Suppose you don't have Praman, suppose you don't have Anumana, inference, then how will you know something? You can know it through Agama, authority, through scriptures. That is why Upanishads have value. Study of Upanishads, study of Bhagavad Gita, this is very, very valuable. But it's how should you approach this? Just like you approach a guru, you work with trust. If somebody is a guru only because you have come into an experience of trust. In Upanishad, you have not come into an experience of trust. What is written there is not in your experience, but you have this trust. So many people have gone through it for so many thousands of years. This truth has existed. Let me explore it. So, when in a very sincere, in a very trusting way, whatever is written there, you start applying it in your life. That is called agama. Understand what is a shastra? The definition of shastra is that the truth of which cannot be refuted. That is why it is called a shastra. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is a shastra. Gita is a moksha shastra. Upanishads are our shastra. These are the Vedas, the four Vedas are our shastras. You can approach them. The problem that I see in the modern day, again, this is my experience, my take. Who is doing the Vyakya of the Shastra? Who is explaining the Shastra to you? If it is explained in a shallow way, this is also how Yoga Sutras, I've studied with commentators, some of them, it's so shallow, nothing, you don't learn anything new. There is no transformation that happens. You just gather a lot of words and you can talk like that foolish, simple man in the village was talking. You become like that, but there is no real transformation. So, who is talking? Who is giving you the explanation of Shastra is very important. When it comes from someone who is already in a self-realized state and then giving it. That's why I found Sri Ravi Shankar's commentary in the beginning very helpful. He does not go very deep because he is addressing a certain audience. It is possible that in his intimate, he has this intimate notes to the seeker in his, sessions with his groups of disciples who are dedicated, who are sincere. He may be going into more depth. But what is published and what is known, he speaks at the first level, but still there is a lot of value in it. There is a lot of knowledge. Like there are things that you can apply and feel transformation, but he does not go into the every chitra bithra nahi karte wo. Itna incisive. And I think there is a reason why he's not doing it. Even Sadhguru, in his public talks or whatever, now they are opening up certain videos where he is delving into things. He says it will create confusion or whatever. It may create whatever, but they are doing that now at Isha. But Osho will get down. He will bear it out for you. Every layer he will peel and show you. So he is both a realized being. This is all in my experience. This is all my way of perceiving, seeing. And because you're receiving this from me, you should know where I'm coming from and adjust for my biases in your understanding so that you work from your center. What is right and good for you, that happens. So I see him also, he's also self-realized and he's speaking on a scripture. So when he speaks, for me, he channelizes, and it's really happening in comparison to, just from what I'm studying from other sources, it doesn't work. So Maharishi Patanjali himself must have had many disciples, and he understands the nature of the disciples. So he says this agama, use this also is an authority. Just use this, work with this. It will take you in the right direction. Okay, so because there are things that your logic will not be able to infer, which you will not know. And you have to take it on the source. So either you take agama, which is scriptural authority, or the third, or guru. This also falls in the category of agama. If and there is always a risk. Many people feel there is a risk of the guru, but guru is not something that is like a shopping you will do. Oh, I'll follow this guru, I'll follow. No, you cannot do it like this. You can listen to him. In that stage, you're simply listening to another human being. Like I'd never had this guru connection with Sri Ravi Shankar. I just enjoyed his company. I liked what he was saying. It made sense to me. I was very open. I was receptive, but that was it. I had high regard for him. Even now, I listen to some of his things because some of the scriptural studies he explains very nicely. Even when I study Gita, I listen to Sri Ravi Shankar's perspective. I also never had this thing with Neem Karoli Baba as a guru. I love him. There is a sense of love that I feel. There is just a sense of endearment. I feel this towards these people. But what happened to me with Sadhguru was something that I have never experienced in my life. It just blew my mind. it just blew me. I think I went into a no mind state. No logic could explain. I cannot explain it, but I know it. So, but that happened in a state of experience. So it is, so a guru doesn't happen by shopping. But if you see some light in someone, at least follow that. What can happen? There is a risk. You may be wrong. Osho says doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There is always risk in this. Life does not come with so much security. You make a mistake. At least after having made a mistake, gone wrong, one thing is shut down. You know that this was wrong. So he says, still go ahead. So this is the first thing. Praman, first way of knowing things. Praman is the first vritti. That is why it is called a vritti. Remember, because it's still the center of knowledge is still in the mind. You can, it's a vritti. Only from when you shut your praman and transcend, you are in that. You abide in the Purusha consciousness. So people like Buddha are abiding in Purusha consciousness. When they want, they can come down to the level of thought. When thought is not needed, they go up. Our problem is we can never stop the thought. Like Sadhguru says, even Eckhart Tolle, if you have listened to Eckhart Tolle, he says, do you need to make a decision? Do you need to make a choice? If you need to make a choice, if you need to make a decision, you need to think. But if there is no need in you to make a choice or a decision, why are you thinking? But we keep on chewing all the time. We cannot transcend. We are stuck. We are in bondage. These people go into the immersion of a particular idea, thought, scripture. They come out of it and they can abide in their true nature. This is what we want for ourselves. That when I want, I can engage in thought. I can be absorbed in it fully. I know the right way. And if I want, I can go back into my, I can just be in the state of abidance. I'm in bliss. I don't need thoughts to be in bliss. Today we need thought even to experience pleasantness within us. Tell your mind, be like this, practice affirmations. But we are at that stage. We are in bondage. I will stop. I think it'll become too much. I will have to, if you want, I can go on. The next three vrittis, he says, is vikalp, pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smritaya. We spoke of pramana vritti. We spoke of vikalp. Praman is mind on right knowledge. Viparyaya is mind on right or wrong knowledge. These are the two vrittis. Three more vrittis, he says. Vikalp. He says your mind can be in imagination. Now, look at it like this. Imagination and memory. These are two other vrittis. Now, imagination and memory are beautiful tools given to the human beings. What not can you create with this? It is the power of your imagination that has allowed you to have these inventions, you know, the aeroplane, the rocket, the space research. You know, Osho had mentioned how the Wright brothers, when they first had this idea of flying, you know, they shut themselves down in the garage and they would do their experiments because people thought they were mad. You're crazy? How can you think of flying? Again, mind cannot know. It has never seen flying. So people would laugh at them, or they just stopped. They would shut themselves in the garage. And the first flight that happened was only 3 seconds. But that changed the way humanity is today. So, Usha, you have to go. All right. So just this and I'll close. And then there is memory. It is because of memory I can do this Yoga Sutra talk now. If I didn't have memory, so memory is also a tool. Imagination and memory are such powerful tools. You can use it for so much good work. But what do? We use imagination and memory for creating suffering. Sadhguru says today suffering is on self-help. Nobody is taking a pin and poking you and creating pain in you. You are doing this to yourself. You know, your mind has become a misery manufacturing machine. You will think about all the bad things that someone said to me. Why did he say this to me? You will keep analyzing this. You are using your memory like this. Then you are creating your imaginative scenario. If he says this to me next time, no, I'm going to say this. I will talk like this. So this is how human beings are getting caught up in their psychology. So imagination and memory at a basic level is this. How we go further, we will discuss next time. If you have anything to say, share. Is this clear? As we go through Yoga Sutras, your clarity should keep increasing and increasing and increasing. At least mentally, our veils should drop. Some dust should clean up. Suddenly something, see, I've had like million bulbs lit in my head with just Osho talking. It was like, My God, it was always like, oh my God, aha, okay, this happened, that. I just couldn't stop. It was like cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. It was a big cleanup I went through in my mind with Yoga Sutra commentary. Just listening to Osho, it really does. If you listen to him on scriptures and how he explains, he's brilliant. So if you have anything to share, comment, any reflections, experiences.
Swati, I'll just say this again. I apologize for being late.
No worries.
Mind playing games with me at Sage, but a relative newcomer to this conversation, and I think I'm still struggling with some of the concepts, the technical definitions of the various terms. But in terms of just internally how it feels, right? It's a lot of it all makes sense, right? There is a lot of overlap between this and what you hear from Sadhguru and the other
Yes.
masters. It's kind of it starts aligning inside you and it makes sense inside. Although if you
Very
ask
good.
me to repeat what you just said, I don't know most of the terms. I'm still understanding the difference between pramana and this and vritti and chitta and all that. Those technical definitions, I don't think I'll probably gather. It'll take a while for them to be
Yes.
stamped in my intellect, but in terms of, yes, it all intuitively makes sense. And thank you.
Very good. That is the idea. Don't worry about words. I'm just using the words to show something. What is being shown to you is more important than the word. Don't get locked up in words. It's all right. It doesn't matter. Sadhguru never uses any Sanskrit word. Correct? But he's given this to us. He's coded this in us. Now, if you hear the word, you know what it means. No, you don't need to know this. That's why, at least in my initial commentaries, I was never about so much getting into the Sanskrit. I said, okay, that exists. You tell me the essence of it. I want to understand this. My journey started like this. It is only now that I've been into it for a few years and I like it. And, I do this for myself, but it is not necessary. You don't have to get into the Sanskrit of it. See, just remember all these words, etc., are necessary only when you're talking to somebody, isn't it? Why are words necessary? For my own understanding, for my own growth, I don't need any words. There is a beautiful story of Shwetketu which will come up where we will look at it. But really, words is just to show off knowledge to other people. Of course, here because we are taking a text, but otherwise, this is how people I know something. How much you know behind it, who knows? You can chant the whole of Gita, but how much have you grasped the essence of the Bhagavad Gita or Yoga Sutras? I don't know. More important to grasp the essence because that will improve your life, that will transform your life. Very important. Focus on that. Don't worry about the words. If I use words and you feel that you've not understood what I'm saying, stop me, catch me, and I will get into that because I do it, I've gotten used to using that word. The moment I say the word, the whole uh, experience of what is that word happens to me, or it becomes easier for me to explain. So but if that is, just stop me, just tell me what do you mean by that, or what is that word. Just do that. The idea is not to get into locked up in words. No, the idea is to come into experience. Something should transform in you by the end of Yoga Sutras. Some practices should get very well established and nailed, because you see, this is not for intellectual curiosity. This is not an intellectual game that we are playing. No, it is not meant. I myself don't walk the path of yoga just for it helps, if you know. So yes, to that extent, but the idea is not that. Not just intellectual accolades. No, something should happen. ये सब पढ़ा पर हुआ क्या? If no transformation happened within me, it's useless. It is just carrying more load. That's it. So no, that is fine. You are in the right direction. Okay. All right. So we'll just take our closing mantra. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. Thank you very much. Namaste. And I will see you next week. Shall we make it 7:30, Vinay?
Yeah, whatever is convenient for everybody.
Thank you very much. You're the only one who was willing for 7. 7:30 is good for everybody. You want me to make 8? I want everybody here. I don't know why the others are not here. It'll be good if you do this live, rather than recording. Then you can share. 7:30 good? You want me to make 8? Whatever you want, whichever way works for you.
7:30. Yeah.
7:30 is good. Right. All right. So I will change that on the group chat, and let's meet next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.